The Titans lose again, 38-30 to Indianapolis, but Justin, they proved they are not soft. This is the Music City Audible. Let's get into this game now. Oh, welcome everyone to another episode of the Music City Audible podcast presented by Broadway Sports Media in partnership with 440 Sports. I'm Justin Graver. With me, as always, Justin Melo and Justin. We're recapping Titans-Colts here. Final score, Colts 38, Titans 30. And this game was pretty crazy. Titans jump out to a 7-0 lead, and then Indianapolis rips off 38 unanswered points to go up 38-7. At this point in the game, I think everyone watching was like, wow, this is embarrassing. Brian Callahan's going to get fired. This is it. This is the worst possible game you could have after defending the team and not calling them soft. Everyone on Twitter's like, see, they are soft. Obviously, how else do you lose 38-7? And then the Titans respond, and they rip off 23 unanswered points of their own. Unfortunately, they were down by 31 points, so 23 points did not do it quite enough, but they did end the game on a 23-0 run, which sounds like a basketball stat, but not enough to complete the comeback. Justin, instant thoughts, reaction to this game, like where were you at midway through the third quarter, and how did you finish in terms of your overall opinion of Brian Callahan and this Titans team?
Well, I knew where I was at midway through the third quarter. It was where everyone else was, right? This is really embarrassing. This is tough. It's like, yeah, we think this regime is going to come back, but these results do matter, right? So it's like every embarrassment that stacks, you start to wonder a little bit if there's some wiggle room there for Amy Adams-Strunk to kind of yank the rug up from underneath them.
Yeah, that's
where I was in the middle of the third quarter. At the end of it, I don't know that I'm all the way on the other end yet, to be honest with you, because it's like, some of that, that first score or two, the Colts are playing soft. They don't think this is possible. When it became 38-22, I think that's the moment where the Colts went, oh, shit, this is a little bit dangerous, and started taking it a bit more serious. And the Titans scored another 8, really made them worry. So credit to them there. All the things, they didn't quit on the game. They didn't quit on Callahan for sure. That does matter.
I agree.
But I still have a hard time, kind of squaring that away with being down 38-7. Like, you make this Colts team who came in, 6-8, I think?
Yep.
Look like a Super Bowl contender, right? Like a legit contender. And it's not great that, I got two opinions on this, and they go both ways. I don't love that, but I'll say it anyway. You defend your team from being soft. We all saw the clip midweek. And then you allow Jonathan Taylor at 65-yard touchdown, 70-yard touchdown. At one point, he's got 200 yards. He goes over 200 yards rushing for the game. But at this point, I'm talking about 200 yards rushing, 9.9 yards per carry, and 2 explosive TDs. Like, that's not great. If I'm looking for a caveat there to go the other way and say, it doesn't mean they're soft, you got some issues at linebacker. You're playing 2 rookies for a good portion of this game. I can see why this staff likes Kenneth Murray, and you might want to crucify me for that. But this guy, you can just tell he's playing through something week in, week out, and refuses to come out. He's battling through. He wants to be out there. Him and Otis restart this game, although they're both banged up. They both leave it, at least momentarily, with injuries. You get James Williams and Cedric Gray in there. Well, that's why they're not playing more, right? You kind of look at, this is what happens when you got 2 inexperienced guys. That quote-unquote first line of defense, just, it's the wrong reads, it's bad angles. James Williams, I believe, was in the game for that second Jonathan Taylor touchdown, and a really banged-up Kenneth Murray was in there for it, and, didn't look like he should have been in the game at that point. His effort on that play, and effort, I think it's when you're feeling something, physically, was not great. So it's, it doesn't mean you're soft. You're also playing with inexperienced defenders. That's what happens when you have guys in there that aren't used to stopping the run at the NFL level. It's a poor angle. It's this and that. It's one block and it springs the guy, right? It happens that easily. So just not a great showcase for them though in general. I take more away from the fact that they were down 38-7 to a non-contender than, the unlikely comeback. Because at least half of it, I think, was when the Colts were, had their foot off the gas.
Yeah, I agree with most of what you said there. I think ultimately, giving up 335 total rushing yards in this game, 6.7 yards per carry on 50 rushing attempts. I don't care how banged up your linebacking group is. I don't care how inexperienced the guys in the game are. That doesn't happen.
No excuse for that.
There are bad run defenses in the NFL. They don't give up 335 yards. In fact, this is the first time that the Titans/Oilers organization has given up over 300 yards on the ground since 1965. Credit to Nick Suss of the Tennessean for that stat. 1965 was the last time the Titans or Oilers gave up 300 plus yards on the ground, and they gave up 335.
That's 5 years into the AFL.
That's
and
how
5
long.
years
I mean,
before the NFL merger.
That's like the tight. So yeah, you want to talk about the fake comeback and how that proves they're not soft? I agree. That proves they're not soft. It doesn't prove that they aren't fucking terrible at football. This team is not a good football team. I don't know if anyone thought that they were. Nobody thinks that. I mean, that's like, we know that they're not a good football team. You did predict a Titans win today, but we'll just breeze over that until next. Well, we already recorded our midweek show and we didn't do game predictions. So I guess you're going to win by default because, there were only 3 games left before this one, and I was down by 2 games. We could still tie. Okay, whatever. We'll save it for later. But yeah, I mean, the fact that they give up this many rushing yards, just like, I don't care who your linebackers are, that's an inexcusable effort on every level, and that is crazy. That is a crazy stat. 50 rushing attempts, and they average almost 7 yards a carry.
And coming into the game against the Colts, what's the only game plan defensively for every team? The quarterback's completing less than 50% of his passes. Just stop the run because he can't throw the ball.
Right. Make him throw the ball. How many completions did Richardson have in this game total? 7. He was 7 for 11.
And they're up 38-7. And they didn't score a defensive touchdown, did they? No,
right.
they didn't
didn't
score a defensive touchdown. Nope. No special teams touchdown. They're up 38-7. Quarterback completed 7 passes. And when they were up 38-7, he hadn't even completed 7 passes.
No.
He completed what, 5, 4? So
5, I think, yeah.
That's wild to be down 38-7. The other quarterback's got 5 passing completions. And no defensive touchdowns to supplement that. There's just no excuse for it.
Right. And the Titans on their own side only finished with 65 rushing yards, 3.0 yards per carry on 22 attempts. Now, there were a couple guys that stood out for this Titans team. So let's go ahead and hit I'll Drink to That, brought to you by Sinkers Beverages. And what I'm drinking to is the fake comeback proving that they're not soft. I'll drink to that because, this game felt like a complete laugher snooze fest midway through the third quarter where I'm thinking, I'm covering this game for Heed the Call. And halfway through the game, I'm thinking like, well, this was easy. We're not going to talk about this game at all because the Colts just completely dominated the Titans on every level. And they still kind of did, even with the comeback. But the fact that it was so out of hand, I was like, cool, this game's over. And then it got interesting. Like, the Titans actually made it at least interesting. At least you had to watch that final Colts possession, wondering if the Titans defense was going to get off the field and give the offense a real chance to go tie the game. But they didn't do that. But I will drink to at least making it exciting. And I'm also drinking to Tajay Spears because I think Tajay Spears, 10 carries, 27 yards, doesn't tell the whole story. He had 2 rushing touchdowns. He had 3 catches for 39 yards. He's an electric player. He's a guy that you can count on him to be a playmaker for whoever is quarterbacking next year, whoever's coaching in 2 years, if it's Callahan or not. You can at least count on Tajay Spears being like one of the guys on offense that you can get the ball to and good things will happen. So I'm drinking to that.
I knew what you meant by who's coaching in 2 years. That's hilarious. Well, I'm drinking too. You know what? If there's not a whole lot of meaningful football going on right now, at least guys are getting paid. I'm assuming a couple players had some incentives built into their contract that they hit today. Tony Pollard, 3rd straight 1,000-yard season. He's been playing through an injury. I'm sure part of that had to do with wanting to hit 1,000 rushing yards. He did it on a great angry run, if you will, 17 yards in the first quarter where he ran over safety, trucked him, picked up a ton of yards after catch. I assume Amani Hooker might have hit a contract-related incentive.
5 picks.
Career-high 5th interception today. Only 4 players in the NFL, I believe, got to check the numbers from today, but only 4 players in the NFL have more interceptions than Amani Hooker this year. So that's great for him. And also Nick Westbrook-Akine catching his 9th TD of the season. That's truly unbelievable. I tweeted it out. He's 2 away from the Titans era single season record. That's mind-blowing. A.J. Brown had 11 in 2020, and Drew Bennett had 11 in 2004. A couple of Oilers, of course, surpassed that mark in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. But in the Titans era, he's now 3rd all-time. And again, only behind the 2 leaders who had 11. So I'm drinking to those. Did I say the 3rd? I did, right? Yeah, I hit all 3. Pollard, Westbrook, Akine, and Hooker. I'm drinking to the three of them. Hopefully getting a couple extra zeros on the paycheck this week.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll drink to that. Brought to you by Sinkers Beverages, the premier wine, spirits, and beer store in East Nashville, serving the community since 1985. Their knowledgeable staff is proud to help you with large parties, themed events, or finding something unique for a special occasion. From birthday parties to milestone celebrations to everyday moments, Sinkers can help with the right drink for every occasion. And if you head to the sinkersbeverages.com website or check the link in this podcast description, you can join the In-Crowd. In-Crowd members get access to allocated wines and spirits, exclusive events, early access to barrel releases, and more. Any final thoughts on this game, Justin? I mean, Jeffrey Simmons, shout out for making a big sack when the Titans were, when they needed a turnover or a stop, and he comes up with a big third down sack to get the ball back, which allowed the Titans to go cut it to 8. So shout out to Jeffrey Simmons. Any final thoughts on this game? Calvin Ridley, nice long touchdown.
Yeah, my final thought is pretty simple. I think we should leave the people with this, continuing to question maybe the direction, right, of this team. I think it's every loss has almost gone one or two ways, right? It's either a meltdown with turnover. I mean, they had a lot of turnovers in this game too, but a meltdown with turnovers, or what happened in this game. It's happened a few times. They start well. They've got a bunch of scripted plays that go well, and then it just all goes to shit, right? They've got a 7-0 lead in this game. I'm looking at it right now. The Colts scored the next, 7, 14,
38.
17, 38. That's right, of course. It was 38-7. I should have known that. So the Colts scored the next 38 points after the Titans scored the opening 7. And they started well. They get a nice touchdown, beautiful throw from Rudolph to Ridley. They get the interception by Amani Hooker. Like, things look like they're going well. And then they just fall apart, right? To me, I think you agree, it's usually the signs of a poorly coached team, right? You start well because of what you've got scripted. And then when you get into the gray areas of where you don't know what's going to happen, they just crumble. They just completely crumble. So I continue to question the direction. We're I think, as we said, trying to stay patient. We think this regime probably gets another year. But, Amy Adams, Strunk, Chad Breaker, whoever's involved, they should continue asking some really difficult questions about why. Why is this happening every week? They just don't look like a well-coached football team.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, that was, you're fired midway through the third quarter, and then, oh, wait, okay, you're unfired for now. But we'll see how the rest of the season goes. 2 more divisional games. If you keep losing, losing is one thing. Losing divisional games is how coaches end up out of a job. All right, that'll do it. Thanks everyone for tuning in. We will be back on Tuesday. We have a very special, fun episode coming for you guys on Tuesday. We had Austin Huff on. We actually had him on last week on Friday is when we recorded this pod because it's Christmas Eve and Christmas next week, so we're not recording on those days. Apologies. But we just talked with Austin for a long time about what it's like being a Titans fan, how we became Titans fans, what all the suffering leads to eventually, and the potential for what it will feel like one day when the Titans do reach that pinnacle, how Austin started Corked Bats. And I just had a really good time talking with Austin. We went about 20 to 30 minutes longer than I think either of us expected that podcast to go because we just really enjoyed the convo. So if you guys are, getting away from family for a few minutes on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, check out the podcast. If you can't do that, it'll still be relevant on Thursday. In fact, it'll still be relevant next year. Like we taped an evergreen podcast, which is something we don't usually do here, covering a team that changes every week. But looking forward to that one. Hope you guys are as well. If you're still watching, thank you. We appreciate it. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, the Music City Audible. Leave a comment below. Any comment below. What were you feeling midway through the game? What were you feeling after the game? Did your confidence level in Brian Callahan change at all because of the comeback? Do you feel like maybe a little bit better about him than you did entering this game? Or was the 38 unanswered points just too much for you to overcome? I feel like that's kind of where I'm at. 38 unanswered is crazy. So leave a comment, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Thanks also to Sinkers Beverages in East Nashville. That'll do it until Tuesday. Y'all stay safe out there and tighten up.
A Broadway sports media production.